So before we owned it, the hub, I mean, I've done research on this and I haven't been able to find out much about it, but I think the hub has actually been around for about 40 years or so in Cotati. We bought it 21 years ago, but we've worked, the guy that owned it before us, I worked for him for about 5 years, and then another guy owned it before that, and so I don't know how long it's been in Cotati, but I know it's probably the oldest bike shop in Sonoma County at this point.
I started working at the hub in August of 2006. It must have been about 5.5 years ago, if that adds up. I like working there because I love bicycles. I mean, I like to ride bikes. I love to work on bikes. I love helping other people enjoy bikes as much as I do, and they pay me for it, so it's pretty cool.
You know, as the industry's sort of grown and become a little bit more professional, we have changed and grown some to accommodate some of those needs, but we've also stayed the same to some degree in terms of how we interact with our customers, and the fact that we're still small enough that the two of us work on the sales floor or in the service department every single day. So those customers come in, and sometimes I think I see a look of relief on their face that while everything else is changing around them, they can come into this place that they recognize, and they recognize the people, and it's still the same. And you know, they'll say that a lot of times. They'll say, "Wow, it's so great to see you guys, and you're still here," and you know, a familiar place while the freeway's growing and the businesses are changing, and you know, and they don't see as many familiar faces. So it's kind of a comfortable place for them to come to, and I think they feel a little bit of a tradition passing on, you know, bringing their kids in, and like Chaz says, very, very proud of the fact that they might have gotten their first bike from us, and now they're bringing in their kids to do the same thing. So that's really a nice feeling.
So I like that the shop is a little more of a community. I mean, I'm a little, it's odd from my perspective because, you know, I'm there all the time. But I remember before I worked in the bike industry and before I lived in Sonoma County, and I'd go to my favorite local bike shop, one of my friends worked there, and I just always remember walking in and it's just, you know, seeing the guys there that I'd see every week or whatever, and it was, having them know my name was cool, having them know what bikes I had and kind of what the past issues I've had with stuff. I mean, and then having, you know, going on rides with them, it was just kind of a fun, it's a fun community that everybody's friends, and that you have, it's more of just it's a business relationship to some extent, but beyond that, you know, a lot of the people that come in our store, we know their names, we know their families, we have a history with them. Chaz and Claire especially, you know, go way back with a lot of the customers. And now, you know, having been in the industry now for over 5 years, I'm starting to get a taste of that. You know, there'll be people that I've seen coming in the shop for 5 years, and I feel like I have a pretty good connection with them, and have kind of seen their journey through cycling. You know, they might have just started out and weren't a cyclist or didn't have a bike or anything, and now you look at them and they're riding over 100 miles a week, or they're way into mountain biking, or they've gotten their whole family riding. So that's cool. I like that.
So we had overheard that another bike shop was trying to move into Cotati. They were a big, you know, at that point, a mail order company. But but anyway, so the gist of it is that they wanted to get some space that wasn't in the business district so that they could pay a little bit less in rent. And so I was off doing a ride in Death Valley, and Claire single-handedly ran around Cotati with flyers and rallying the troops about how, you know, we didn't oppose another bike shop moving into Cotati. We just felt that if another bike shop moved into Cotati, it should be a level playing field where they're paying the same rent. they have to abide by the same rules we have to with the number of parking spaces and everything. And so that went to the city council had to vote on it, and we showed up very nervous about what was going to happen that night. We felt like it could be a turning point in our shop, and we sat there in the city council room with just the two of us, and then the owner of the other bike shop and his lawyer. As the time came nearer and nearer to meeting time, the place filled up, and by the end of it, it was standing room only. And one person after another got up there and talked about how the Hub Cyclery had, brought them to Cotati for business. How a woman who Nancy, who rode her three-wheel bike all over town, talked about how she, how would she be, if the Hub Cyclery wasn't there, how would she be able to get across the freeway to this other bike shop, and and everything. So it was really neat, and they voted down their proposal, and we, as we left the city hall, we had the stairs were lined with everybody, and they were clapping for us, and it was a pretty neat night.
Yeah, it was neat to see the community come out like that
Yeah.
and really support us. It was kind of night, I think, that a lot of people never get to experience, because we really felt appreciated by all those people, and you got to hear people say some pretty nice things about us that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to hear, and it was very heartwarming, actually.
Whenever I'm at a department store just for fun, I always go look at the bikes just to kind of have a laugh. And it's funny, they very small selection of accessories to go with their bikes, and then just the fact that not only are the bikes of a pretty low quality, but they don't come in sizes. They don't oftentimes have any kind of choices as far as men's and women's or color choices, and so it's fairly limited. It's kind of funny that if you stand there and stare at the bikes for a few minutes, nobody will come by and ask you if you have questions or anything. And it's not a bike shop. That's kind of to be expected. And I think when you go into any business that specializes in that one thing, for us being bicycles and everything that goes with it, you get much more attention to the smaller details of things, the kind of obscure accessories that there might be one or two people that want them, but we have it. And we know every product in our store, and most everything in the store we've used ourselves, with the exception for me of women's clothing.
I've always seen it a little bit as it's a little bit of a struggle between this industry that's kind of grown up from these, small independently owned businesses and merging with these corporate companies, that there's a little bit of a clash. And right now, I think there's a little bit of a clash going on about who's going to survive all of that, and who's going to survive this new time when consumers are out there making different choices in how they spend their money, still wanting the expertise of a small business like ours. And people sometimes have no qualms about coming in, and they'll spend an hour talking to you about something that's very detailed and something they don't know enough about, and then they will thank you and walk away and then order that item online, and still never make the connection between the fact that they think in their mind they don't need you, when in essence they couldn't have done what they did without you. Or you're saving them at the final hour, at 6 p.m. when they've got a race or an event the next day, with all of the stuff that they bought online somewhere, and now you're expected to adjust a headset or true a wheel, or something like that, so that they can go do their event, and you've never even laid eyes on them before.
We are making changes in our society, in our business climate, if you will, that very profound changes, and we're not thinking about what the consequences are. We're not thinking about ultimately what it means to our future, for our future communities and the like, and we're doing it fairly rapidly, and there may be no going back. There may be no going back at all. It's very common, I find, for people to say that they'll go out to the brick and mortar store and they'll shop for something, and when they find the thing that they really like, then they'll order it up online because it's much cheaper. Well, in the process, what they're doing is putting these businesses, these brick and mortar businesses, out of business. And at some point, there won't be any place left anymore to go out and shop for something and then buy it online. So either the way in which we shop and make purchasing decisions is going to ultimately change profoundly in the process, or else we'll see some sort of a retrograde transformation in business, or some new business model that we haven't seen before, whereby local businesses get created in a very different way that will allow them to compete against online retailers in ways that we probably haven't imagined yet. So I don't know if we value the other kinds of things that small businesses give us, then we perhaps as a society could try to anticipate some of this and come up with ways to deal with it.
We have at least a handful of people, our own peers, our own age group, that have been coming in as long as we've owned the bike shop, and a lot of them will talk about how many bikes they've bought for themselves over the years, and for their kids and all that stuff. And what we see happening now is we'll get people coming in that are in their mid-30s, and they'll bring their kids in, and then I'll see them and I'll remember them as a 11-year-old or whatever, and they're very proud. They love to be recognized, and then they just love it. It's almost, they get to show off in front of their kids, and they'll say, "This is where I came to get my first bike, and these are the folks that helped me out, and now we're going to get your first bike." And that's really
Of course, they always comment that we haven't changed at all.
yeah.